Hi everybody, and welcome to my next video in this series about my new game Battle for Antares, which I'm going to release on Steam in a couple of weeks when it's done. In this series I would like to walk you through all the gameplay elements, all the design choices that I've made, all the individual components which make up the game, and discuss and review with you how everything works internally. And in this particular video I would like to show you how the technology handling or the technology gameplay works, how that's implemented and stuff. So essentially it starts with this enum, where for each of the technologies which are available in the game I have this one enum defined, which allows me to later identify these technologies. And now there's this technology tree struct, which allows me to add some additional information to the respective technologies. So for example, for each of these technologies I can define the title and the description that you see in this technology selection screen. There's a cost modifier which will come into play later. Then there's this icon, of course, defined, which I use to visualize the technology. And then probably the most important thing is this depends on variable, which allows me to define which other technologies this technology depends on. So what do you need to have researched first before you can research this one. And then there is this technology tree, just a simple data table in the game, where for each of these technologies I define the respective title and description, I define the cost modifier, I define the actual icon, and then I define which other technologies it depends on. So for example, you can only research fighter level 2 if you have researched improved lasers level 1, for example. And you can only research bombers level 1 if you have researched ground forces, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So these dependencies and all this gameplay related stuff is handled or set in this table. So now all the logic dealing with technologies is handled within the Empire class, which I've shown you last time as well. And essentially there is this technologies discovered array, which keeps track of all the technologies that the respective empire has already discovered. Of course it starts empty, and then with every new technology becoming available it is added to this array here. And probably from last time you remember this start roll timers method, which does a lot of things, but one of the things it does is to start this collect research timer, which is just recurrently being called. Currently the research collection interval is set to 1 second, so every second this loop, this logic here is executed, where I just calculate the empire production for science. So how much science is your empire producing in total, and then I'm just adding 1/5 of that to the amount of research points that you have spent. And if they exceed the amount of research points that you need, then the respective research is finished, meaning that I can add the respective research to this technologies discovered array and then create a new selection. So if the research is finished, I'm just adding the currently researched technology to this technology discovered array, and I make sure that new technologies are being picked for the user to choose from. This is research variable is keeping track of whether there is active research or not, and if not, then the user is frequently informed that he should pick a new technology. So this pick next available technology is this method is called exactly in the beginning of the game, to make sure that there's this initial selection of technologies, and then whenever you finish research, then a new choice of technologies needs to be selected. And what happens here is essentially I go through all the items in this technology tree table. I just iterate over all of them, and now I need to check whether all the dependencies are available. So this logic here starts with per default everything is available, all the dependencies are available, and now I just iterate through all of these all of these dependencies and see if the empire has this technology already available. If that's the case, then dependencies available will stay true. It's just the combination of whether all the technologies has been available in the past plus this new value here. So this AND here will stay true as long as until now all the dependencies have been available and this new one is also available. As long as that's the case, this variable will stay true. But as soon as one of these technologies or dependencies is not available, then it will make this going to false, and it will stay false all the time. So at the end of the loop, I can just check if all the dependencies are available, and if that's the case, I add the current technology under question to this internal local variable available technologies. So here in this first logic, I am building an array of currently available technologies that I could pick from. So all this is essentially all the technologies which have not yet been discovered and for which all the dependencies have been discovered. And out of these, I want a random selection of 3 for the user to be available. So what I do now is I just randomly shuffle the array. I just randomly pick 2 indices and swap them a couple of times. To this essentially randomly shuffles the array. And now I pick at most 3 of them, the top 3 from this shuffled array, and move them over to this technologies to pick from array here, which is now the new selection that the user can pick from. Yeah? And then the technology selection screen uses this to display these 3 technologies that you can pick from, and if you click that, then it starts research of that respective technology. So that's pretty much it. And this starting of research happens here in the start research method, where I essentially start researching again. I'm remembering the research technology, so when it's finished, then I can add it to the technologies discovered array. And now I of course need to calculate the technology cost to set the research points which I need and reset the research points spent to 0. Yeah. So what's left to do is to define the total technology cost, and this is essentially driven by 2 things. On the one hand, technologies get more expensive with more technologies that you have discovered. So when you start the game, this technologies discovered array is empty, so the length of it is 0. So you will essentially have this base cost of 35 multiplied by the modifier of the respective technology. You remember that all these technologies come with some modifiers to adjust to the respective cost. And this modifier is multiplied in here. And now with every technology being discovered, this base cost is increased by a certain amount. If you have chosen the Xenos race, then it is increased by 20%. Otherwise, it's increased by 17% per research per technology that you have researched already. So it just gets more and more expensive to progress down the technology tree, and that forces you to allocate some planets for research and to make sure that you have enough research points that you create research points fast enough to keep up with your opponent. As you probably also remember, there are a couple of crucial technologies that you absolutely have to research in order to grow your empire, so you cannot simply ignore research at all in this game. Yeah? Okay, so probably that's pretty much it. That's pretty much how technologies are handled in this game. Probably the last thing is that there is this method has technology, which which I can just call to see if a certain technology is available. And this method, probably you've seen that last time already, is used in a lot of places in the game to adjust certain gameplay elements. For example, if I go to the solar system and look at the defend invasion mechanism, here, then here, for example, this has technology method for the respective empire is called to check if planetary defenses or planetary defenses 2 are researched, because only then the planet is going to defend itself. So that's now and all these kind of different places in the game, I call this has technology method to see if certain technology is available and then adjust the gameplay logic accordingly. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, how this is handled. So if there are other questions, anything else that you'd like to know, then let me know in the comments, and I'm sure I can answer these questions or create dedicated videos for that. Other than this, I would like to thank you for your attention, and then see you next time. Goodbye.